Hello there, Ableton Live and Complete Kontrol users. And my name's Jason, and I'm from Freelance Sound Labs, which some of you may already be aware of some of the work that I've done with NKS compatible preset browsing packs for the Complete Kontrol keyboard. What I'm going to show you today is some requests from some users to explain in a bit more detail some of the methods that I've been using to get a little bit more functionality out of the Complete Kontrol keyboard. So this video I'm going to show how you can use a single instance of the Complete Kontrol software to control any other instrument track within Ableton Live. Now this is any other third-party VST track or any live instrument itself. One of the benefits to setting up a template to do this type of arrangement is that you only need one instance of Complete Kontrol, which is very, very handy if you want to do scales, be able to change the key or the scale that you're working in. You don't have to go through every individual track and change the scale or the ARP settings to, a new template. So what I'm going to show you is this is not by any means the perfect solution, but look, you tell me what a perfect solution is these days, and I'm sure people would be very happy to hear it. But what we'll do is I'll start by explaining the template that I've got here at the moment. This is an orchestral builder template that I've been working on forever. It's basically just a selection of instruments that work very well together for creating orchestral type arrangements, strings and pianos and things like that. Now, because I've been designing this over quite a few years, it's got quite a lot of tracks. Individual tracks have individual instances or MIDI routed instances, which are rather complex to set up. So you've got a master track here, and then you've got a whole heap of sub MIDI tracks that actually feed this master track. Trying to replace the VST instance, putting in a Complete Kontrol instance in its place, reloading the original VST and then remapping everything is just it's a nightmare that I don't want to have to go through just to be able to use the Smart Play features. So I sat down and spent quite a lot of time trying to figure out the best mechanism to do this, and I was actually quite surprised that it's very, very easy. So basically what I've done is I've opened up my Complete Kontrol my Ableton Live template that I use here. And what I want to do is simply use the Smart Play features of Complete Kontrol to feed these tracks. And what we need to do is, first of all, add in a track. I place it at the very start here, and then just add an instance of Complete Kontrol. Now, this instance of Complete Kontrol is not actually going to produce any audio. It's just going to act as an input to the software. What we do is place an instance of Complete Kontrol, and remember that you've got to place an instance that has this little command control here. One of my other videos I'll explain a little bit of how this works, but you should be aware that you've got to use the Complete Kontrol rack when you add a VST for Complete Kontrol, not the actual raw plugin itself. So what we want to do is, or what I've done, is quite simply loaded in a blank copy of Contact. Now the way that I've done that is I've gone into the plugins menu, and then I've gone to native instruments, and I've selected Contact straight out and not loaded an instrument. This is purely just so that I've got a nice tidy little interface here, and it doesn't pop up on the keyboard constantly asking me to browse for an instrument. There's an instrument loaded, but there's nothing loaded into it, so it doesn't actually place any load on the DAW itself. Now if I open up this little button here, I'll see that I've got my scale and ARP features that I can access. So this track here is going to be receiving MIDI in from all devices. So you'll see here that the MIDI in, normally you would have this set by default. The MIDI comes in from any device, so that means I can feed this using my Complete Kontrol keyboard, my push controller, one of my other MIDI keyboards connected to the system. And then what I want to do is set the monitor. If I expand this, it will look a little bit easier for you to understand. So expand those. What I want to do is set the monitor to input mode. Now what this will do is this will monitor any MIDI controller that I play. The MIDI data goes into the channel. irrespective of if the track is armed or selected. They're always receiving MIDI. Now this will allow the controllers to trigger this track. What I then want to do is then use the information coming in, process it through the Komplete Kontrol software, and then spit that out to my additional tracks. Now you'll see here that I've got two different tracks that I use here. One is the Komplete Kontrol and the other is Cthulhu. So Cthulhu, for those that don't know, is basically the scale and art features. If I resize this down again, the scale and art features that you would find in the Komplete Kontrol keyboard, but with a lot more configuration. I mean, this is like one of the kings of creating chords and art progressions and things like that. So these are both very, very useful for doing, coming up with ideas and, triggering chords and things like that. And I can selectively use either one of these for any track, which I'll demonstrate very, very shortly. So you'll see here that even if I go and select any other track down here, if I play my push controller, you'll see that the chords actually change on Cthulhu. The same information is also going into Komplete Kontrol at the same time. Both of these inputs are always being triggered no matter what I'm doing. So this is because of this, the input setting here. Now what we want to do is, if I go down to my piano tracks as my little example, so I've got a instance of Keyscape. Now you'll notice that Keyscape here, if I pop this open, I haven't configured it, I've literally just loaded it in. Open up Keyscape. It is just a raw version of Keyscape. Selecting this track though, I'll play, and even though information is going in here, it is not triggering Keyscape. Now the reason for that is because the track is not armed. All I need to do is arm the track, press a key, and now I've got information flowing into Keyscape. Now you hear that I'm playing this off my push controller because that's in front of me. I'm only getting a single key triggering. Now that is because in my scales here, I don't have a chord selected. So if I engage my little keyboard icon here, even though I'm in the Keyscape track, my keyboard controller is now, the actual macro controls on the keyboard controller are now controlling this information here. So if I go across to my keyboard, sorry, my keyboard is just a little distance away, so I've got to reach over and actually grab a control. If I go across to my keyboard controller and change the chord setting, for instance, chord is actually displayed on my keyboard. I can now scroll through and change the different types of chords directly from the keyboard. Now while I'm doing that, I can even come back to my push and let's select just a minor chord. Ah, beautiful. So now instantly it plays that minor chord. Now the other extra benefit to this is if I want to switch tracks and play, let's say, go to a string track, all I have to do is arm the track and it plays in the exact same key, the same scale, the same chord, everything nice and simple. It's getting all of its information from here. Now if I actually want to, if we go back to Keyscape here, enter in a MIDI clip here. If I play this again and have a look at the piano roll, arm the track first of course, we'll see that the MIDI information is individually, all the notes individually appear. So if I record this, for instance, I'll just take out one of the string ones that I've got in there. It's hidden away over there. So if I play this clip and just simply record into the clip, we get the actual chord information printed straight into the clip. Now this saves a lot of time, especially if you set this up as a default template. if I want to add any new instrument to this, so I've now exhausted all of my elements here, I want to add in a brand new instrument, I can grab any type of instrument. Let's grab a live instrument, for instance. So we go to an instrument, we'll grab a... Oh, we don't really want to grab an impulse. We'll try just analog. Try a analog pad, something that's there. That's not going to sound very good. Try that. So I can grab any instrument that I like, drag it straight in. All I need to do to receive the MIDI data from Komplete Kontrol is select the input to Komplete Kontrol. Make sure that the second box down we select the MIDI from Komplete Kontrol. And then once I activate the track, now what I'll do is just right click and select ARM exclusive mode so that we don't keep arming multiple tracks. And now we've got a straight live instrument. We've got analog sitting here. And we've got chords that can play. Simple as that. Now, of course, if I've also got Cthulhu loaded in, or any other type of VST or instrument that can actually produce multiple outputs, then I can quite easily switch keyscape. So I've got keyscape here. I can switch that to Cthulhu by simply selecting that. Selecting the Cthulhu input. And hey, what do you know? It plays the same chord progression. We're in the same sort of setup. And it's as easy as that, and I can record all the individual notes, edit them later. It's really, really quite flexible. So that's basically how you can achieve this. Now, one of the things, like I was saying, every time from the Komplete Kontrol keyboard, using the navigation buttons, as I navigate between tracks, it automatically arms the track I'm selecting, which means I can start playing, mucking around, straight from the keyboard. What I can also do is, whilst I'm selecting a track, every time I select a track or arm a track recording, it's going to disconnect the smart control features from my KK instance. All I need to do is click this little keyboard icon, and even though I'm playing this track, the LCD controls, the encoders, will be controlling this track. Now from the keyboard, you can also do this by simply pressing the shift button and pressing instance, and that will re-engage you back to this track. If you want to have a different setup for major chords, minor chords, things like that, without having to physically change them on the keyboard, you can actually just simply duplicate this track, set it all up with a new chord progression, new chord setup, and all you need to then do is actually select the new instance from the drop down box here, reconfigure it. It's as easy as that. All right, cheers.